somewhere on display right now. Okay, we are recording. Patrick Ryan, good to see you.
Good to see you too, man.
It's been a while.
It has.
Yeah. So, welcome to the show, the Bar Stories Project. And thanks for tuning in to all the audience members out there. So,
I brought my podcasting A game.
Yeah, so you're a podcaster?
I mean, I dabble. Not currently.
Yeah,
but I got the setup.
Let's get some links out to the audience. So we have Patrick Ryan on the show. You're a public defender in Phoenix, correct?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
It's a joy to have you on because we were also law clerks together.
That's right. Yeah.
And
went to law school together, and then we clerked together for a bit.
Because it was a brief stint for me, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm eternally grateful for what you did before you left.
Oh,
so
sure.
I was a juvenile law clerk, and my judge rotated to the civil bench. I had a month left on my clerkship, and I had to learn a whole new system during COVID. And Patrick was a lifesaver. He showed me the ropes. He showed me things that I don't know what I would have done without you. So let's start there. Thank you for that.
Oh, of course, man.
So congratulations on not only passing the bar, but you're an attorney, you're a public defender now.
Thank you.
What's that like?
Well, I mean, it's good. I feel, especially you mentioned that it's, pandemic, it's COVID is still a thing right now. So I just feel like super grateful that I passed the bar and got a job, like even during all this. I know a lot of folks are having the exact opposite experience. A lot of people are losing their jobs. So, I mean, I'm just grateful to even, have gotten a job in the law right now, just because it's weird, But I'm enjoying it. I really am. This is, I don't remember if I talked to you about this before, but Maricopa County Public Defender's Office is exactly the job that I've wanted for a long time, because you knew probably, we've talked about it, that public defense is what I'm interested in and passionate about. But also this is where I'm from. Like, I grew up in Chandler, I was born there, and this is home. So I'm quite grateful. Yeah.
Super happy for you, man. The vision and the idea of starting this project and launching it stemmed from the conversation that we had at the courthouse when I came to visit you, because I had no idea what was going to happen when I moved to civil.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a conversation in the jury room about the bar exam and what it's like to, be unsuccessful and have to go at it again. And it was so compelling to me. And I'd had those conversations before, but I think after I talked to you, it was like, this is what people need to hear. And this is what they want to hear. And I know I was one of those students when I was a 3L. I think it's so important to hear about what it takes when you go through that really difficult time of not passing the bar, which is something that you had spent a lot of time and effort preparing for, and then you're unsuccessful.
Mm-hmm.
And so I found it so helpful to talk to people, hear their stories, and see how much you can relate. Everybody's story is going to be different, but there's so many consistent themes. And to share those with students that are about to take the bar, I think is really important. And so it's fitting that, and I'm grateful that you're here, because the inspiration came from, that conversation, and, Katie as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm glad that the project got to launch with the two people that I would say contributed the most to the vision. So again, thanks for coming on.
Thank you. That's really cool to hear, because I remember that conversation specifically as well. And it was, I felt like it was therapeutic. I remember feeling like, wow, damn, talking to Chuck, that was so good.
I guess we'll start with Act 1.
Mm-hmm.
July 2019, you go take the bar exam.
Yeah.
October 2019. So walk us through this, man. Like, you took the bar July 2019. It's October.
Yeah.
Are we refreshing your recollection?
Yeah.
It's October, the list comes out.
Oh man, the list comes out.
So one thing that I think that people I don't know if they enjoy it. I think that's the wrong word, but it's intriguing. Like, what does that feel like? Walk us through that day.
Well, so I was not super confident about my performance and my results. I knew that I could have and should have done better. So, but I also thought there was a chance that I passed. I was like, I know a lot of stuff. I don't know nothing, so I knew that there was a chance that I passed, but it was definitely a big question mark for me. I wasn't really confident. So there was a lot of anxiety going into that day. I know probably everyone feels anxious going into the day that they see the results, but I was really like, I felt like it was like a coin flip in terms of whether I passed or not. And I also I was a law clerk at that time, and I had chosen to take that day off of work. I took a vacation day before knowing the results, because I was like, either I will have passed and I'll be really excited and I'll probably want to celebrate and stuff, because I think it was a Friday. Um,
Yeah.
and so I was like, yeah, I could take the day off, go out with friends and stuff, or it will be a very sad day and I won't want to see anybody.
You're so insightful. So episode 1, I detail how my judge told me specifically to do that for that specific reason.
Oh,
And I was like, Judge, it's fine. Like, it's just another day. And then when it happened, I like had to finagle my way of getting coverage from my hearing so I can leave, because I didn't want to be around.
I think someone made that recommendation to me as well, and that's why I did it. And I'm glad I did, because yeah, you asked what it was like going through that, and it was a bummer. I remember this is a weird thing, but I remember like looking through the list, because they just give you a maybe 2 or 3 page list of all of the names of the people who pass, and that's how you find out, and you have to like look for your name. And I remember not seeing mine, and then like going back up, I'm like, oh, I missed it. I was like looking up and down. I remember going like, okay, my last name's Ryan, so I was like going like QRS. Okay, wait, hold on, I went too far, and I was like, my brain was like, no, it's in here. You got to find it.
Dude, we're like 2
I was in denial.
So
Yeah.
I sort of like wrote these stand-up comedy jokes about what it's like to fill the bar, and one of them is like, you look at the list and there's a spot where your name's supposed to be, and you kind of stare at that spot for a second, and then you like scroll through the list thinking like maybe they put my name in the back or something. But yeah, man, that's so great. It's so refreshing to hear that from someone else.
What you're hitting on there is, I remember the biggest feeling I had that day and the next couple weeks afterwards, as I was just trying to deal with it and figure out what to do, was I did feel alone, and I felt isolated. And I don't blame anybody in my life, because everyone around me was doing their best to be supportive and loving and kind, like my family and my friends in the law. Everyone who knew that I hadn't passed was completely gracious and offering sympathy or whatever. But unfortunately, like a lot of it was lost on me, because I kind of, like you were saying, it's you feel alone, because it feels like there's no one else who knows what you're going through. Yeah, it's isolating.
Yeah,
and so
and
I think that's why it is nice to talk to people who went through it as well, because
yeah, super helpful.
experience.
There's a lot that goes into it, but I think a part of it is like, you don't prepare for, and I don't think it's even wise to waste your time doing it, but you don't prepare for like failing it, right?
Right.
The whole preparation period is trying to prepare you to succeed, so that you don't go through what we went through on that day.
Right.
But then when it happens, it's like, there's no way you could have prepared for how you would feel. And
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I kind of remember digging back into my memory now is like, I had all the, I would say, resources available to me all the time, because you and I didn't work during bar
Right.
prep the
Yeah.
first time. And it didn't happen. And I just felt like that disappointment, because I know that people worked. Personally, I know people that worked and then had to study at night. And it's like, it kind of makes you feel worse, but also, it's not ultimately it's about the individual, but like you feel sort of like you disappointed, you know, your family and your friends and the people that were in your corner. So there's all these feelings that kind of come to you that you didn't expect because you don't really think about stuff like that,
Yeah,
right?
I think you're completely right. Like all of your eggs are in the basket of I'm gonna pass and I better pass, and you don't have a contingency plan for, at least I didn't, for okay, well, what if I don't pass? I mean, the closest thing I had to a plan was, well, I'm a law clerk right now. That's a job where you don't need, in most cases, and in my case, you don't need bar passage to do it. Um, you just need, your law degree. Uh, and so I was at least confident that I would have a job for at least a year, because that was the agreement that I had with my judge. And so, but other than that, it's like I still have a job, but still
Yeah.
need to pass this thing. And so yeah, I think when you place all of your hope into this one outcome that obviously is best case scenario, but for a lot of people it doesn't pan out that way, or at least not the way they expect it to, it comes as kind of a shock because you're like, well, now what? I have no idea where to go from here. Should I try again? Should I just do the same thing to try in preparation, or should I try to study a different way? Should I not try to take the test again? There's a million different things you could do, and it's not clear what's the right move.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I touched on that in the last episode where I I was like, it kind of turns your world upside down, and not in this doom and gloom way, but it's like you didn't prepare for this. You now you need to think about, because there's so much time in between, the tests,
yeah.
and you're not in school anymore, so you need to make money, right, and
Hmm.
survive. And same boat. I was a law clerk too, and my judge had a law clerk that passed the bar. Started in July or August, passed the bar in October, and then left.
Yeah.
And so that was her big thing. She was always like, "Look, when I hire you, I don't want 12 months. If you want to give me 12 months, that's fine. Just don't be a dick and leave in October."
Right. Yeah.
So, like that was a joke that I had with her. It's like, well, at least you're happy because I can't go
Yeah,
anywhere.
exactly. She's rooting against you.
So, you passed the bar. You're an attorney now. Looking back on, we've talked about this, but I want to, share this with the platform. Looking back on the first time, and you had bar prep, you were doing a bar prep program, I'm sure,
Hmm.
and you studied at home, took didn't work.
Yeah.
So post graduation, doing bar prep just like everybody else. Like, what can you attribute was like led to that outcome?
The You mean like passing the second time around?
No, the first time.
Oh, um, so yeah. I mean, the big, I think the big thing for me was the the style of bar prep that I attempted to do, just didn't suit me as a person and as a student, which is a well-respected, bar study program. They, have really good, statistics on bar passage rates of people who take their courses and stuff. And I bought like the most expensive class, or at least I think it was the most expensive one that I knew about, or whatever. And the reason I bought the more expensive package was because, and this is probably on me somewhat. I mean, it definitely is. I thought that the classes were going to be taught in person. I thought that I would go to U of A Law School, or even if it wasn't there, I don't care where it is, but I thought I would go into a classroom and have a law professor or someone taught, expecting me to be in class and talking to me about the material and giving, I don't know, quizzes or whatever. Um, but it was not that. The
So you
in-person,
learn better that way.
I do, yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
specifically opted for the more expensive option because knowing myself, excuse me, my freezer made some ice just now. Um, but knowing myself, I'm a kind of an externally motivated person. It's really helpful to me to have like structure and accountability. When I know that someone's expecting me to, do things, on time and at a high level of quality or whatever, um, in person, it's just more effective for me in terms of motivating me and keeping me, on task or
Yeah,
whatever.
on track. Totally.
So,
I mean, I'm ex-military, so
okay,
the-
sure.
I, you're like speaking to the choir.
Right, right.
I know exactly what you mean. And being ex-military and then having, with COVID going on, fully online law school,
Yeah.
it's, I'm not knocking anybody because nobody
Hmm.
expected this and it's nobody's fault, but it's not the same. You know what I mean? Like,
No.
I'm not getting the same education that I would be getting if I was actually going to class in person, interacting with people. And
Right.
yeah, I totally agree. Like, I unfortunately though, and this is just the reality, and I'm just speaking objectively, the in-person model is just it's not economically it's a lot cheaper for the bar companies
Totally.
to just do online. So they just do it because
Yeah.
I mean they're not gonna spend the extra money flying whoever when they can just publish this stuff online.
Mhm.
The problem is that people like you and I that would
Exactly.
benefit from that.
Yeah, because
Fuck us.
a lot of people are fine with that. I have friends. I have a friend who did the February bar, and so he basically had December through February with no classes. So he was still in law school, but for that period, for folks who don't know, probably people know if they're listening to this, but
Well, I mean, I think it's best to explain it that way because
Sure.
some of the students that are watching this, yeah, some of them are 3Ls that kind of know the ropes, but there might be some 1Ls and 2Ls that are just curious. And
sure. Yeah.
so, it's good to walk through. Like,
Yeah.
explain
Okay.
it.
But yeah, so you know, oftentimes at least in Arizona, law students have the option of taking the bar exam in February in the final semester of their 3L year. Um, I assume there's other sub requirements, like you have to have certain classes done or whatever before that probably.
Yeah.
But essentially, you get to take about 2 months off of school to just study and do bar prep. You take the bar exam in February, and then you resume sort of your semester. You have sort of like an accelerated class schedule for like the remainder of the year. And I opted not to do that because the idea of having to worry about school and bar prep at the same time scared the hell out of me. So I knew that that was not for me. But I have a friend who did the February bar program, and I swear, he didn't leave his apartment more than like 4 times, it felt like, for anything other than like going to the grocery store. For like those 2 months, he was just a caveman living in his little apartment cave and just doing bar prep all day long and crushing it. He did great. Like he got a really good score on the bar exam first try, and like he's very talented and whatever. I'm very happy for him. That's not a way that I can function, unfortunately. I wish that I could, but if I'm being honest with myself, just giving me a computer screen and then being like, okay, spend 9 hours just studying right here, and that's just going to be your day. I have a hard time with that. So I think, like I was kind of getting at earlier, that it's, I don't know, some weird psychological thing where if I've got people near me that have expectations of me, I'm like, yeah, got to do this. I will meet these expectations. When it's just me, at my house, at my apartment, I don't know. It's just I have difficulty just finding the motivation purely in
Yeah.
myself. And like I said, I wish that I wasn't that way, but I've just found that to be true about
No,
myself.
that makes perfect sense to me. So,
Mm-hmm.
so the one thing that maybe this can sort of explain it is like in the military, every morning you have to work out with your group, your platoon, and it's not a matter of like, do I feel like it? You better be there, or else.
Yeah.
And it was easy to get up at 5 a.m. every single day because it was like you're accountable to the group.
And you have like the clear expectations and the clear like input output of like, okay, I did it. I get, positive reinforcement or whatever of people knowing I did a good job. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's weird.
I totally agree with you because that's how I felt. I had 3 months or however long, and I was literally like, I had no distractions, nothing. And I felt like I was doing my program, but like something wasn't clicking because I didn't pass. And just tell us a story about how you were studying the second time around.
Sure. So, so yeah, at that point I was a law clerk, and working full time, you obviously have fewer hours in the day to do whatever you want. Um, but there was sort of a trade-off, in my opinion. It was essentially the situation with my job and with my judge was such that, um, you know, if I was getting all of the work done that I needed to do, I was, completing all of my assignments, and the judge didn't have anything that he needed me to be working on at the time, and there were no hearings or whatever. There was extra time. I was allowed to, spend some time doing bar prep, and it was I'm very, very fortunate to have had that situation because simultaneously I'm getting, practical legal experience in the courts, working with my judge and getting legal writing and research practice and stuff. And at the same time, I was given this built-in sort of not built-in because it wasn't always consistent, but on average, a few hours a week that I would get to do bar prep. And something that is very important is that it was not just me in my home. It was, at my job. And because I am the way that I am, have the accountability of having people around and, I don't know, just I think being outside of my own house where I feel comfortable, like it was just easy. It was really easy for me to stay motivated and focused and everything. So I was way more proficient, even though I spent fewer hours studying in total the second time around. The hours that I did spend were significantly more efficient and more effective, more valuable. I mean, yeah, I will say the first time around, I didn't spend as much time as I should have, and I think, but part of that was because of the lack of accountability and stuff. So like I would have like 4 hours where I had a studying session, but I wasn't actually studying for that entire 4 hours. I would get distracted and my mind would
I'm
wander.
seeing
Whatever.
it in my head right now.
Yeah.
I know
So
exactly what you're saying.
hmm like I could say I spent the entire day studying, and I wouldn't be lying. Like I spent the entire day attempting to study, I guess would maybe be a more
Yeah,
accurate way
that's
of putting it. When I got my bar results back the first time, I had only been a law clerk for like a month or two, maybe 2 months. Yeah, because I started mid-August, got them in October. But I was pretty new there. But there was another law clerk who worked, for a judge on the same floor as me. So we worked. I saw her sometimes, and she would help me out with learning the ropes of, how things work at Superior Court down there. And when I didn't pass, because of course everybody just knows somehow, everyone knows who passed and who didn't. Um, she basically was like, "Hey," she just kind of approached me and said, "Hey, I realized that you didn't pass. I just wanted to let you know that a year ago I was pretty much in the exact same boat you are." She was like, "I was a new law clerk. I had, failed to pass the bar exam the first time, um, and then I studied my ass off and I did some things differently, and then I passed the second time." And she, as she was telling me, as we were having this conversation, she was just then starting. She had gotten a job at the Pima County Public Defender's Office, and she was going to be leaving to go there soon. Um, but basically, she just kind of offered her mentorship and wisdom, and just shared with me a lot of strategies of things that I could try to do differently to pass. But also though, just like we've talked about, just also she was just someone who was there for me in this weird isolating time where not that many people understand what it's like to try really, really hard to pass the bar exam and then not pass. But she
Yeah,
did because she was in pretty much, like I said, the exact same shoes,
that's so
exact same
awesome.
situation
That
I was in.
it's amazing for a couple reasons. The first is like that you had somebody that kind of sort of came out of nowhere and
Right.
offered assistance and sort of support. But another thing is like the same thing happened to me. It's like this bond that they have with you because they understand what you're going through and they know that you can do it, and they're
hmm
willing to like go out of their way to help you. And I think like that was something that's really consistent, is that people that have done this before or that went through the same thing, they're so willing to help out.
The only people who reached out to me and talked to me about, you know, my status with having failed and trying to take it again, um, they were always very encouraging, every single person. If there were people who were, you know, who thought that I was like not that I was an idiot and I wasn't going to pass or whatever, they weren't telling me that. And I mean, rightly so. But you know, to my knowledge, I don't think there was anyone like that. Everyone who I know was very supportive. Um, and you're totally right that it's the the pressure of feeling like, um, I don't know how to describe it, but you were kind of touching on like there's high expectations of you. I think just in the legal profession generally, like we hold ourselves to a high standard. Professionalism is and competence are, you know, expected of you always, and rightly so. I'm not saying they shouldn't be, but like when you know, fail the thing that you've put all of your time and effort into for so long, it's like, oh wow, I'm not what I am supposed to be, you know, in terms of success or competence or whatever. So yeah, I was certainly worried that people would be like, well, yeah, he shouldn't be a lawyer, but that was never the case. No one said that, and no one discouraged me from continuing to try. They were just supportive.
The judge that you worked for, amazing, amazing guy. I really
Yeah,
liked him.
me too.
Did you guys have a conversation about like after you were unsuccessful in July?
Yeah, we did. Um, and I remember being nervous about it because it's, you know, your judge, your mentor, your boss, you know, but also like my judge is like he was very successful, and I think it was like I would guess, I don't know what his experience was like, but I would guess he was like 100% certain that he was going to pass the bar when he took it. He's a very smart, very competent person. So I just was nervous about it, but he was like we were talking about. He was nothing but supportive, and he didn't ever make me feel bad um, for not having passed. He pretty much immediately was like solution oriented. It was like, okay, so yeah, you didn't pass. You know, maybe let's try this, or what do you need from me to help you pass and stuff. And that was when we determined sort of the understanding of, you know, I'm getting all my work done. Even if I'm getting ahead on some of my assignments, and if I've got extra time, then yeah, why not do bar prep? You know, there's always
That's
downtime,
really
and
awesome that he did. I would highly recommend a law clerk job for so many reasons, and one of them being if you have to take the bar again, it's like one of the best positions you can be in because you're getting paid, and most of the judges will work with you. You know, like most of the
mm,
and yeah, my judge was the same way. She just told me like go downstairs to the courtroom and study when when we're not
yep,
in session.
that's where I did it
So
too. Yeah,
it's
in
pretty
the
amazing.
courtroom.
Since people like us have something to go off of,
Sure.
you took it more than once.
Yeah.
Compare that to the feeling that you felt after you walked out of the first one. Was it different?
I remember in terms of my sense of how I did the first time around was like maybe I did okay because I was like not I was really unsure about a lot of the rules and issues and stuff, and so it was hard for me to gauge how right or wrong I was on each question. And the second time around, I was much more familiar with the rules and issues. And if there was one that like I was like, you know, I remember this issue and I remember this rule, but I don't remember, I don't know how to apply it or whatever. I could basically I could tell you more I think more accurately which ones I got wrong, and that was a weird feeling because I think because I was more prepared, I could I could tell which ones I got wrong more easily, and uh, in the end, I guess maybe that was a good sign because I passed. I don't know, but um, I definitely felt still unsure. I still was uncertain, but I knew that I had a better shot than the first time. But I also had a lot of points I needed to make up. The first time around, I was not particularly close to passing in Arizona. I wasn't just like 1 or 2 points off. So I had to do a good amount better. And so knowing that I did better, but not knowing how much I did better was, you know, I was still unsure and anxious and stuff. Also, I'm sure I probably talked to you about this at one point, but it was mostly a funny experience, but also a little bit scary for me. Was the on the second day of the exam, or actually, no, sorry, the first day of the exam is when the essays are, and one of my former law professors was also taking the bar exam at the time,
Oh yeah.
and and I saw her afterwards, after we had like walked out of the exam room or whatever, and we're in an area where we're allowed to talk or whatever. And I was like, "Hi, how's it going?" And she's like, "Oh, could be better." She's like, "I think I did a really bad job," and I was like, "That is not a good sign for me, because you're the one who taught me stuff. If you did a bad job, how the hell am I supposed to pass?" And it was mostly funny, but you know, it's a weird feeling.
If somebody could have gave you like the best advice possible, that looking back, you know now, but you wish you would have known then, and that's
Hmm.
probably, it's hard to put you on the spot to do that, but like, what would you say to those students that, they're not at the top 10%, they're not like a shoe in to pass?
I feel like what I needed to hear probably um, was like, regardless of what happens, um, you've already like come really far and done a lot of cool, impressive things. And you know, getting through law school is no easy task. A lot of people drop out, and so I think just knowing that like even if you don't pass, it's okay, and you're still good enough. It doesn't mean you're stupid. It doesn't mean you're never going to be a lawyer. It doesn't mean you shouldn't be a lawyer. It just means that there was something that got in the way this time, uh, and that happens. Um, I just think that if you place all of your self worth in passing the bar, um, it's not. I don't think it's healthy
Not at all.
because you it's an unreasonable statistically, you know, around, if I'm generalizing, around half of the people who take the test each time don't pass. So like that's a lot of people who are presumably placing all of their hopes and dreams and self-worth and confidence and everything in this one particular outcome that a lot of people don't get. I
Yeah.
think it's obviously you want to try your hardest and you want to hope for the best, but you have to. I think it's good to realize that even if you don't pass, um, it doesn't mean you can't do it, and it doesn't mean you shouldn't do it, and you're still smart and you're still good enough. You know, I think that was a long-winded answer. Sorry.
I had something that I wanted to follow up with, but it's kind of slipping right now.
It's okay.
I'm just gonna sit with this, think
Yeah.
about it for a second.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed what you said about you're good enough, even if you didn't pass, because before the last July, I don't know if you know this. I don't know if you keep up with the statistics
Mm-hmm.
because you've already passed, so who cares? But
Oh, but this
the
most.
last July was like 80%, 81% pass rate. Even then, there were 19% of people that didn't pass it, and you can't make a plausible argument that 19% of those people are just dumb.
Yeah.
Think about it, man, because that was a test of your performance on those 2 days
Yeah. 2 days.
of
Yeah.
your life.
That.
You could have had a
Yes,
really
that's huge.
shitty day. It was like I mean, it's like sports, man. Like you freaking practice, did well in practice, and then on game day, you freaking fumble.
Yeah.
You might have fumbled. I mean, and for whatever those reasons are that you were unsuccessful, you kind of have to look inward because everybody's reasons are different. But you didn't perform on that day. So, if you were way off base and you lacked foundation, then you can correct those things. But there's too much of that feeling that overwhelms people that don't pass. It's like, I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
And if this person did, that's the worst thing you could do, in my opinion. Compare yourself to other people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how did that person pass? And they, like, I would say leave that crap out of it
Yeah.
because this is a individual battle.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely, reach out to people if, there might be students that are not really like social, as they say, but people are willing to lend a hand if you just reach out to them. The truth of the matter is there's a lot more people that aren't at the top of their class than there are at the top. So
Right.
that's why I felt like there was this need for this platform,
Mm-hmm.
because there had to have been a lot more people like me that I was like, man, this is a very real possibility that I might, you know, be one of those people that didn't make it, but I don't think that's the end, right? Yeah, so that must have felt great. Tell us about when you looked at that list the second time.
Yeah. That day was like, well, so that morning, that day, this is actually this is very clear to me. That was the most emotional day of my entire life, bar none. And I'm an emotional person, and uh, I've been through stuff before, but that was like an insane day for me. And I wasn't even like doing anything. I had that actually. That was during COVID times or whatever, so I knew I was going to be working from home at that point. So I didn't take the day off because I was like, you know, at least I won't have to go into work and face people, so I'll be working from home. But yeah, I looked at the list, saw my name, and slammed my computer shut, and then just like, I don't care. This is embarrassing for me, but I don't care that I said this. I was sobbing, dude. I was immediately crying. Um, and I had a hard time getting a hold of myself for like almost an hour. Um, my 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 parents and my sister and my brother were like calling me, and I was like, I didn't really want to answer because I was like I was a mess. Um, and it was it was a good day. It was a happy day, but to be honest with you, the the main feeling I had was relief. Like I think you want it to be an exciting day. You want to enjoy, the moment. And I think I was, but I was mostly just like, it was so much anxiety went away. That was the main thing that I felt was like, oh, thank God. I was just at peace, kind of. Um, anyway, that was an insane day.
That's a, that's amazing, man. I first took this test in July 2019. It's October 2020.
Hmm.
So this exam is like, it's, and I don't want to put this in a like super negative way, but it's it's sort of like hindered me for over a year. It's
Hmm.
been literally like physical. I have physical manifestations of like I
Yeah.
have to go.
I didn't want to go out when, I mean, it was May when I got the results and nothing was open at the time. So there was me going anywhere to celebrate was out of the question. But I wouldn't have wanted to anyway. I was overwhelmed, and I was like, at the end of the day, exhausted from doing nothing, just from thinking and experiencing my feelings. And so, yeah, it's it's a good feeling. It's a weird feeling though, to be honest with you. I feel like I don't know. I remember thinking I would have been happier, like elated when it happened, but I was mostly just like I don't know.
You're relieved, but at the same time, it's like, man, like that sucked. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like that's the
Right.
feeling, right?
Right. What was I gonna say? I just lost
That
my train
happened
of
to
thought
me.
entirely. No, I'm sorry. Can you think for just a second if you don't mind? Is that okay?
Perfect.
Okay. Oh, I remember now what I wanted to talk about. So, like, I think if out of context, me saying like I saw my name on the internet and I started sobbing, I feel like I sound like a crazy person. But like, if you if you take into account the time, I feel like you have to appreciate the larger timeline of things. Even if
Good point.
even if it's
Very
just
good
your
point.
first time and you only took the bar exam once, you spent most people on average maybe 3 months more, maybe more, preparing for the test. Uh, that's a long, time. The entire time you're thinking about the test, you're thinking about if you'll pass. And then you take the test. Um, I don't know anybody who feels like I did great. I definitely passed. So, then you're wondering, did I pass? I hope I passed. You're anxious about it. And then you have to wait 3 more months for the results to come back. So it takes half of a year of wondering, and if you're like me, being very anxious about it. And then it all builds up to this one moment where you're looking at your phone or your computer, and then you get, your answer, and it's either really, really, really good news or really, really bad news. And yeah. So I think that's important to keep in mind. I'm not a
No,
crazy
that's
person.
perfect. That's
I,
perfect because yeah, it's several months in the aggregate, right? The
mhm.
test is 2 days, but preparation 3 months, waiting for your results 3 more. Um, if you have to take it again, that's the whole cycle again.
Yes.
Another 6. Um, oh, and what about the cost?
Right.
But
Yeah.
it ain't free. The bar to take the bar, it's 600 bucks, and then
Mhm.
the laptop piece, another
Yeah.
100 something, 700. We're at 7. Your bar prep program, who knows? Did you go with a commercial program?
Yes. So, I mean, the second time around, I did a hodgepodge of things. The second time around, I just kind of threw out the what I would call maybe a one size fits all prescriptive approach of here's the bar prep program that's supposed to be really good, and if you take it, you'll pass. That didn't work for me.
Yeah.
Because it didn't suit me as a learner, and so I sort of created my own sort of study plan, and I used a variety of different resources. I used a bunch of my Kaplan resources. I kept all the outlines and everything. I still used them, but I then had you share with me something that I used a lot. I don't remember what it was even called, but there
Adaptabar?
were some very very what's that?
Was it Adaptabar?
No. So I did use Adaptive as well, but
Oh, Bar Exam Toolbox.
I think it was Smart Bar Prep. There were these
Yeah, yeah,
like very
yeah.
very
That
condensed
outline.
outlines. Yeah, they were like super condensed, and those were really helpful. I feel
Oh,
like
I'm glad.
having
I think you told me that. You
yeah
actually
totally.
use them. Yeah, they're awesome.
hmm So I used my Kaplan, books, outlines, and I had those condensed outlines that you had showed me. I did use Adaptive Bar, which is an MBE question, the multiple choice question bank that was pretty. It was really good. It had like a couple thousand questions with all the different topics, and had some really good data analysis tools, so you could see which um, areas you need to improve on, but more specifically, like what time of day do you perform the best, and I don't know, all sorts of weird. How
Damn,
long
I
do
need
you
to do all
average on each
that.
type of question? Actually, ended up not using these that much. The critical pass flashcards. Um,
Yeah, those are the actual physical flashcards.
yeah,
So yeah, I bought those from somebody because people sell their old crap.
right.
I didn't like it, man. Um,
Yeah.
if people are gonna do that, I recommend they have it on the app now,
hmm
and it's like the same price, like $60, and you can just flip through the flashcards on the phone.
Yeah.
But yeah, the those preset like cut cardboard flashcards for Critical Pass,
hmm
I people were swearing by it, and it just wasn't for me, man.
And I think that's the way to view it is it's not for you. And if it worked for someone else, good for them. It might not work for you. But if you think it will work for you, maybe try it. I think that is an important thing to keep in mind when you're trying to pass the bar is it's very difficult. You're going to need to study for it at least as hard as you've studied for anything else in your life, if not more so. And part of that is knowing yourself and knowing what type of studying will help you the most. I think
So
that's my
here's some
opinion.
questions that I remember from. They were like, "Is it true that you have to study like 10 hours a day during bar prep?" What would you say to that question?
Um, no, I don't. I would say no. I would say maybe for some people that is necessary, or I mean, I'll put it this way: for some people, studying 10 hours a day is maybe actually a bad idea. For some people, if they can handle it and if that works for them, certainly, yeah. If I tried to do it, it would have been bad. Excuse my phone alarm.
Yeah.
Um,
So this is the question and answer portion.
Generally speaking, they're all wait. I was going to say generally speaking, they're all providing the same general learning plan. You get your outlines, you get your online question bank. one thing that I actually will say, I kind of wish the first time around, if I had done Themis, I know that they have a sort of system where you have a schedule for what you're supposed to study on what day, and it has it planned out. But if, you know, this is not the plan, but if you fall behind or you miss a day or whatever, it will readjust and
Yeah.
sort of like shift things around.
Recalibrates your task list. And I've heard that in other programs, it'll just kind of tack on the unfinished task the next day. And I think that,
Yeah. And it becomes insurmountable. In my experience with Kaplan, if I fell behind for whatever reason, I would just be like, okay, well then study for 20 hours the next day. It's like, I can't. Thanks for the suggestion, but that's not going to happen. So let's be realistic, and I'm going to keep moving. You know, if it was with Themis, they will prioritize what's the most important thing for you to study, and then if you stay on track, then hopefully you'll get to the less important or more detailed stuff later. But I think that's a smart system. So I guess I would say, in general, the programs, you know, they're covering all the same topics, but I would say look at you know, the things like that. Look at the differences between them maybe, and see which ones would suit your learning style.
working through the essay is super important. Like, just because you read the prompt and then reviewed the answer, totally different than working through it yourself.
You're in a time crunch and you still, you know, want to get through a lot of different practice essays in different topics. At least for me,
Outline.
there hit a point where, I would outline, because I was reasonably confident in my essay writing skills, you know, in terms of the form of it. And so I think for me, practicing by outlining would allow me to get through more essays and practice essays without having to spend as much time, so I could test my knowledge of those topics, and, you know, compare them against the answers, the review answers.
Did you leave anything blank the first time? Like, not entire essays, but
Oh,
questions.
no, I mean, I didn't leave any multiple choice questions blank.
No, I mean essays. Like, I'm not saying
Oh.
you left an entire essay out of the 6, but you maybe left, like, if they had 3 calls of the question, like, you might have done 2 and left 1.
I don't think I ever left any out. I definitely had ones where I was like, I don't know about this, and I just, you know, said something that I thought maybe was true or whatever. I definitely had ones where I was like, man, that was a shitty part of my essay, but I never left it. I never completely failed to address any of the prompts, you know, just because that's one of the, you know, test taking skills they tell you is like, just, you know, even if you're not confident in your answer, put something down. It's better than nothing.
Don't leave anything blank, because they'll give you points, maybe not a whole lot, but they'll give you points for stuff that you write about. But honestly, think about it from a bar grader's perspective. If, you know, they go to essay 6 and it's like a sentence and then it's cut off, how can they possibly give you points for that? You know, like, they're going to give you one, maybe one, but how they want to give you more, but they can't, because you didn't put anything down. You see what I'm saying? So, and that's where time management. So, okay, here's the last question, I promise.
Sure.
I know I'm like taking you over time.
That's okay.
So my first bar exam, I did the method on the essays. We're talking about the MEE. I did 30 minutes on each, and I did in order 1 through 6. Bar exam number 2, essay number 1 stumped me so bad that I skipped to the second one. And then I think I stopped and I kind of like flipped through all 6. And then I just did the one, like, I did them out of order. And I was totally screwed because I ran out of time. I forgot where I left off on the secure transactions one. And what was your approach on game day with the essays?
I did them in order, which I would guess is not what they advise you to do.
No, they do. That was
okay.
You're supposed to do. You're supposed to do them like in order, and you give yourself the time limit, and that's it. You move.
Yeah, I think I did them in order, and I know with at least one of them, I knew I didn't know what I needed to. I didn't know everything that I needed to know to score perfectly on the essay or whatever. That was clear to me very quickly. So I think I didn't dedicate as much time to that essay, and um, it worked for me.
Yeah.
I actually, man, this is what I'll be honest with you. This is the most frustrating thing about, and one of the many frustrating things about the bar exam. I did great on that essay. I remember specifically. It was a
I was
contracts
just about
essay.
to say that. I
Dude,
was just about
it's
to say,
infuriating.
have you
That's
ever had an essay where you were like,
a
fuck this
lot of them.
essay, and then you end up doing really well? Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
had
had,
that happen.
and the opposite as well. I think I crushed it, and then that's my worst essay. It's like, well, damn, what am I doing here? And that is disconcerting. That didn't happen as much with the MBE. That felt
Oh
like,
yeah, the MBE is the truth teller.
I think so
I feel like
completely.
the
Yeah,
MBE is the
essays.
bar. The MBE
Yeah,
is the freaking bar.
yeah.
Like you know it or you don't, or you're prepared for that section or you're not. But
Hmm.
like with the essays, holy crap, dude. Like, okay, I'm thinking because I've taken it so many damn times at this point. The first time, the subjects that I studied the least, I did fine.
Hmm.
And then like the subjects that I should know really well, I struggled. Like I was like, but I thought I did fine on
Yeah,
them. So it was kind of like
it's
it's
kind of
weird.
infuriating to me.
Yeah, it's frustrating. Yeah. So I think we'll end with like the MBE.
Hmm.
I think we had this discussion before. I certainly had it with Katie. The thing about the MBE with me is that when I think back to the first time that I was going to take the bar, and it's like we're closing in on the
Hmm.
date of the exam, I was at a point where you mentioned like not having enough foundation,
Hmm.
like black letter law, testable foundation. If you lack that foundation, like you're you're selling yourself short, you know.
Hmm.
But for me, that was my that was my issue. But it was hard for me to sort of come to that understanding because I feel like, well, I did everything the bar prep company told me to do, and they said if I do 75%, I'll pass. But I guess I couldn't get myself to be honest and say like I don't know enough because it's just self-study. It's just me. Like there's nobody telling me, dude, I don't think you know enough.
Hmm.
Um, was that something that you noticed like after having passed it, that the foundation was lacking and you just weren't as aware as you were the second time? If that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I knew, I knew I hadn't studied enough the first time around, but I didn't have a strong grasp on, which areas I knew better than others. Yeah. I think, I kind of think, well, uh, for me at least, I think getting through the foundational studying, like making, you read all of the, you watch the lectures or whatever, you read the outlines, whatever it is, you like learn, you supposedly absorb the information. Um, I think you're not expecting to remember 100% of it is foolish. You're not going to. You just won't. Hopefully you get a lot of it, but you won't get all of it. So I think from there, it's get through, in my opinion, get through it and then refine from there. Like figure out where you need to fill in the gaps. And that's to me where the, you know, multiple choice questions and stuff, just doing a lot of them, kind of grinding it out and getting the data of like, oh, I'm getting a lot of these wrong. I should go study this more. That way you can have more targeted studying and as opposed to thinking like there's just a billion different topics I have to learn. I'm gonna, because at that point it's insurmountable. I think.
Yeah,
Um,
you drive yourself crazy.
yeah. Hmm.
So that's where Adaptive honestly helped so much. So I took July, February, and then this past October.
Hmm.
My MBE score from July to February, dramatic increase, and I have to say Adaptive because um, the software is so easy to access, and I can just kind of do a whole bunch of questions and I liked the explanations and everything. And what I felt like was, if I just got familiar with the way they test questions, they can only test them in so many different ways.
Yeah.
So I started to see shit like I was freaking like a Zen master with evidence. Holy crap, dude. I was like getting like 89% because I'm like, you can't fool me anymore at this point. I've done,
Yeah.
So, you know, I've had to take the bar 3 times. I've tried to do a count and I have some certainty to this. I've probably done 5,000 to 6,000 MBE questions. And the thing is, like, after having done that many, you can see like what they're trying to do. Whereas, man, thinking back to July, the first time, I was still getting surprised. Like, I would read a question. Here's the trick, and tell me if you agree. You should be able to read that question and be like, oh, they're testing this issue. So this should be the answer, but without even looking at the answer choices.
Yeah.
There was too many times where I was like, oh, that looks about right. And I wasn't sure why I picked that. If you're not sure why you picked an answer and it's getting like a week to the bar, 2 weeks, you should, you know, not drop out, but it's like, get yourself to that point prior to like the exam where you should be pretty confident that you know what they're asking about and you're pretty sure you got the right answer, or it might have been between these two.
Yeah.
And if you got it wrong, whatever, there's 199 more.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's really smart. I think that by its very design, like, there are lots of answers that are meant to appeal specifically to people who are unsure. And I feel like oftentimes it's like something that's just general enough that it seems like it could be right or apply or whatever. But I think what you said is very, very insightful, that if you read the question, you know, hopefully you can tell what specifically they're trying to test. Because if you try to, you know, look at the answers and then find one that sounds right or feels right, and then you kind of try to reverse engineer it and talk yourself into it, that's gonna. I feel like in many cases, that's the one that's meant to be the red herring that's gonna mess you up. So, I think that's a smart approach. Yeah.
Well, Patrick, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show, and thanks for taking the time. I'm damn certain that so many students are going to benefit from you sharing your story and are going to be inspired by it. I think our audience will be mostly students that are going to take it for the first time, but a few that are, you know, having to take it for a second time or third. And either way, they're going to benefit so much from hearing about the triumph, somebody that overcame the obstacle that they're going to face very soon. So this is a really important project, and it is time consuming, but I'm happy to put in the time knowing that it's going to help a lot of people. So I don't know if you know how much you're going to be helping people, but you are. And I'm just grateful that you took the time out.
Well, that's great. I'm happy to hear it. And I'm really glad you had me on, because like I said, it's kind of therapeutic to talk about this stuff, because
good, because I honestly was about to say, I kind of feel bad for having to, you know, now that you're working as an attorney and you're having to revisit, because, you know, I'm back in school, so it's like whatever. You're having to revisit this like whole bar stuff.
If this is helpful to even just one or two, even just a couple people, then it's worth it totally. Yeah.
All right, so Patrick Ryan, episode 2 complete, and we're signing off. See you guys later.
Bye.
All right, so